So when I first started editing photos, I used to overdo everything. You know, pushing too many sliders way too hard, adding too many effects, and just messing too much around, to be honest. But after editing now for years, I found a much simpler approach that gives me better results a lot faster. So in this video right here, my friend, I'll show you the exact steps I take on how I edit my photos from start to finish to make them look good as fuck. Alright, so step number 1. This step is, in my opinion, really important, and it's also very much overlooked by a lot of people. And it has nothing to do with sliders. You see, before I touch any slider here in Lightroom, I try to just take a look at the photo for a few seconds and think to myself, what is it that I want to achieve? And the questions I ask me is, how do I want this photo to feel like? What is the subject here? And how can I isolate it? You see, this gives me a little roadmap, and then I have a general sense of where I want to take this photo, and I get a little anchor, which helped me so much on making the entire edit much more intentional. And I do like that. Now, it's not like I'm sitting here for 20 minutes being like,
what is the purpose of life?
It's just a few seconds I'm thinking like, okay, maybe for this photo I want to get a little nostalgic feel. I think that could be really cool. And this is the subject and this is going to be crop. Okay, cool. And now I know what I'm going to do. Which leads us to step number 2. And really this is step number 1 and the other could be step 0 because now we're starting to edit the photo. Now, the first thing that I like to do is that I like to set the crop. And the reason that I want to set the crop early on is that this both helps me nail the composition, helps me isolate the subject, but it also tells me later on where I will put the masks. For example, this photo right here is a good example to it because here I looked at the photo before and was like, I want a cool and a dramatic and a little bit moody, mysterious feel. But take a look at this is how the photo ended up edited, and this is without edit. And what I started with here is just finding a crop. Okay, we want a 4:5 for this one, for example, and we can clearly see that this is not totally in the middle, so we can center it, helping with the composition. But then later on, let's say for the sake of the tutorial that this is like in the middle, then I know, okay, I might want to remove this or this and this if I wanted to. But take a look at the edit photo, that I know now that I'm gonna create mask here by pushing in on the subject, darkening this. I want to brighten up these areas to get this haze here, so it's more noticeable, but also we have to pull out the subject as well. And I used a lot of mask on this photo. And if we go to this photo right here, we start with the composition of the crop. And let's say 4:3 here. I want to have this here. And these lines, if you're totally new, just press O on your keyboard and you can see them here. And I don't want to have them dead centered. I think it would be cool if we have like maybe this area right here quite centered. So this bottom is like 1/3 of the photo, having a little bit more in the middle. I think this is pretty cool. Okay, this is a good get. And then one thing I like to do as well pretty early on, if you go down here in lens corrections, remove chromatic aberration, and then enable profile correction. This just enables the flaw of the lens. This is something that I like to do. All right, step number 3. Now we start with the sliders. Now, one thing I've noticed that a lot of people struggle with is that they think that editing, you have to do things in a certain order. And I get that and makes sense, and that kind of thinking, it does make sense because editing is often taught online as baking. Do this, do this, do this, and then do this. But editing is more like cooking. Sure, there are few things and few ways that you can do that make sense in the correct order, but most of the time you're free to interpret it a little bit how you want. You know, you taste the food a little bit to go, I need a little bit more salt and a little more pepper. It's kind of the same here as well. With that being said though, then there is one place where the correct order matters tremendously much. And that is that you need to do the basic correction before you do the tone curve. You see, the basic panel up here is meant to correct the image, correct the exposure, set the white balance and so on. While the tone curve down here is where I shape the contrast and the overall feeling of the image. So really, I'm not using the tone curve to rescue the photo. That is more of the work for the basic correction where I'm setting the foundation. And then I'm using the tone curves to give the image its final tone and feel. Now, I'm not going super deep and technical on this in this video right here because this gets hella nerdy, but I do have a whole lesson on this in my masterclass. And because I think this is so important and I want all of you to understand this, then I made that lesson free for everybody to watch. And I've linked that down in the description. Go look at that because you're going to have some eye-opening stuff, you know, third eye. Also, if you want to become a better photo editor, then I made a free email series. It's 1 short tip a day and it's totally free. If you want that, then you can also find it in the description down below. So my friends, step number 4, masks or HSL sliders and the colors really. So after I've set my exposure, I've done the basic correction, I've done the tone curves and all that, and I think like, okay, this is a good starting point. Then what I do, I take a look at the photo again and I think to myself, should I do the colors now or should I do the masks? And the order here, it doesn't really matter at all. Remember, it's like cooking. If you want to do the mask first, then the goal of the mask is to shape the image. You want to help guide the viewer's eyes to the subject, shape the light, and just create a more three-dimensional, give that photo that 3D pop. Okay, maybe I want to do that first. Or I decided I want to work on the colors first. And again, it's totally up to you and whatever you feel it right. And if I'm like totally honest, what my workflow usually looks like after I've done the crop is, for example, if we do this photo right here, then you can see that before photo looked like this. What I usually do, like, this is a little bit cheeky, but I wanted to show you this from ground up, is that I usually go like, okay, here, and then I have preset packs and I go, okay, autumn, maybe this, boom. And then I do a few changes from here and I'm pretty much good to go. And if you want to grab it, you can also find it in the description down below. But working with the colors from ground up, then here you also have a choice. We have the color mixer, you have the color grading, and you also have calibration. What do you do first? Now, there is an argument to be made that you should do calibration first, because the calibration tool, it changes the underlying red, green, and blue color response to the entire image. So basically, if you just move this around and I can show you, it shifts and affects the overall foundation of the underlying color. So here, we're taking the entire blue spectrum of the colors, the primary blue color, and we're shifting it towards more magenta. And here we're shifting it towards orange. Or not orange, sorry, to more purple, okay? And Adobe recommends that you might want to start with this first, and I think it's pretty fair. I sometimes do that, but it's not a hard rule. You just have to figure that out yourself. I often have a little recipe, maybe for this photo, I know like, okay, if you go minus 30 here, and then minus up to 20, and then we can take this up to like 35. It's a cool little, like makes the colors a little base that it could be good. And then I go up to HSL sliders and then I might go back down and change things. It's so much up to you and you just have to figure out what you think looks, rad. Looks rad. But what do you think looks cool? But we can take it somewhere right here. I think could be a cool little starting point. And then we can take minus this a little bit, okay? And then we do HSL sliders. So the HSL sliders, personally I like this view the most, HSL, and then I have all. And here, let's just move the colors here down a little bit. Take up the yellows a little bit towards more to the green. Little bit with the green towards here. And we can really speed this up a little bit. Don't have to see me talk. All right, so now we're on the luminance. Now the luminance sliders are really interesting if you want to add and get depth to your colors. And really you're either taking them down to mute the colors quite a lot. So if we show you the yellow colors, you can see here, we're taking them up and we're brightening them. And if you get good at having the feeling for these, you can get some really, really cool colors that are like look really, really, really dope. So for this one, I want to have a combination of taking up the yellow, because if you take them down, it just looks kind of weird. We can take them up a little bit, but the green, taking them down here is very subtle, but you get this little deep oomph in the green hue, which I think looks super, super good. And then a look that I'm often a fan of is desaturating the blues like this. But then if you bring down it here, we give them quite a lot of oomph. This is obviously too much, but if you did a little bit like this, I think that could look pretty cool to begin with. And I think here, this is a really cool, like, this is just before and after, and we desaturate a few colors. Remember, what was my anchor? I want a little warm and nostalgic feel. Now, this is a really good starting point, and I'm really, really happy. And then we go to the color grading. So the aim with the color grading is really to inject a ton of colors to the... Why am I doing this here with my hands like I'm some kung fu guy? But what I want to do is to inject colors into certain areas of the photo to help with the overall mood and feeling. For example, when I was editing this photo right here, I wanted a really cool photo. So this is what it looks like when it was resetted. It's pretty nice, but afterwards I did here. And you can see in the colors, this is a lot where I injected blue into the shadows, midtones, and highlights to really cool that photo and give it that cold, mysterious feel that I was going for. And that it was how it felt when I was there. So we're working on this photo, and what I would like to do is to the shadows, to get a warm, nostalgic feel, you might want to go and warm them up. But I would like to create a little bit of color contrast here. And here it's good to know a little bit of color theory, which I have a whole module in my masterclass just on color theory. Shameless plug, cheeky. But here we can do around 215, something like this. And then let's warm up the tones here. I would like to get them around 50, I think is pretty cool. take that up to maybe 18. And then the highlights, we warm them up a little bit, but little bit towards the green, maybe 53, and have it a little bit more subtle. I think this looks pretty damn good. And we can warm this down a little, cool this down a little bit, and then take down here a little bit, so it's not as much. Now we can check out the blending as well, and we can go to the balance. I like it minus just a tiny bit here. I think this is starting to look pretty good. A few sliders I like also here is just to check with the luminance sliders a little bit as well. We can take down the luminance a bit on the shadows, and we can take it up a tiny bit on the midtones to get the skin tones here to pop a little bit. And then on the highlights, you can see, yeah, a little bit up. I think it's not bad. And I'm constantly looking at the histogram too to see how the exposure is looking. But remember, I did crush these blacks a little bit here, so I have a little fade here. And then I also did the same thing on the highlights to get a little smoother highlights roll off, but also just I don't want the whites to be pure whites because I want to go for that little bit film look. All right, so step number 5, my friend, is masks. So with masks, this is really where we take control of the image, we take control of the light, we help isolate the subject, we shape the light, and we just make the photo and give it that more polished 3D look. For example, I was working on this photo right here, and just notice with and without masks. There are a ton of masks to build this photo. And if I take it away, it looks like this. It's very subtle, but notice how flat it is compared to this. This is mask on, mask off, mask on, mask off. That is a rap song, right? But what I'm doing basically, I have a mask here and helping to shape and open up where she sits there to draw attention to her. And then I have masks that are in here everywhere to just close in what I call it. I take down the exposure here, and then I open it up here as well as paint a little bit, doing classic dodge and burn, where I might make the shadows here more shadowy or like darker, that's a better word, and then the bright colors here a little bit brighter. And you can see me do it all the time. And there is another little thing that I do that is really, really, really good, a little Arnold's secret sauce that I'll show you in a second. But if we work on this photo, then what we can start to do is to make this quite simple, do a radial filter like this, like so, and we can open it up something like this, and we can just start to take up the whites ever so slightly and up with the shadows. And one thing I like to do with editing is to rather be a little bit subtle with the changes, and with masking I'd rather stack them. So maybe I have a few different masks that do very similar things, but together they create one really good look. You'll see what I mean in a second. So this is here, it's in the middle, and we can take up the contrast to compensate just a little bit, because we're losing a little bit contrast when we're taking up the shadows, and we're taking it up like this. All right, then we can do one brush, and we can zoom out. I like to have here, we can zoom this out to -12 like so. And if I just go around here, press O on your keyboard, you can have this red thing here, and I'm just going to go around the corners and up here as well, really, really subtle. And my aim here is to create a little vignette, all right? So I like to go down with the exposure a little bit and then up with the contrast as well. Now we can go and click a mask and click subject, and that will create a perfect mask just around them here. And then I also want to take that up a little bit. And notice here, I'm building two masks that are taking up the exposure on the subject. It's this one, and together they become really, really nice, because here we have the subject, make that just the subject pop, but here we make the subject plus fading around them, and together that works really, really, really well. So let me now show you my secret sauce and a combination of masks that just looks so good. So what I do here, I try to really shape the light, and we can do it on this photo, but for you to understand it, let's start with this photo right here. So as you can see, this has a lot of masks. This is we can zoom in a little bit, so we have fit here. So this here, no mask, pretty flat, mask on, really, really three-dimensional. What I especially want to show you is this mask and this mask. So what these are is that I'm emulating the light source. So I create two masks. This is the first mask, and what I do, I take down the dehaze like this. So this is really the effect just exaggerated, and then take down the clarity a little bit. And I place it in the same corner as the sun is coming from. So the sun is coming from here and is beaming down into this fjord. And basically, if we zoom out a little bit here again, this is way too much. Like this, you can see I'm placing this light source in the same corner, just like so. Kind of emulating the sunlight. And if you want to be a ninja with it, then you can take up the temperature slider as well to really sell that sunlight effect. I don't always do it, but that is definitely an option. Then I do what I call max stacking. So I have this is the same idea here. Dehaze is down and clarity is down as well as here, but I shape it as a cone. And this beams the light down into the fjord just like this. And adding them together creates this really, really, really cool effect. And you can see me do it all the time. You see here, the light source is now in this corner, and this is with it off, and this is on, off, on, off, on. So good, so good. And remember, it has to be in the same corner. If we were and here, it just looks silly, you know. So you have to think, okay, where's the sun coming from? So in this case, in our edit that we're editing right now, already see we're getting some really, really nice like tones here. And what I would do then, I go up here, go here, and we take radial filter just like so, pointing a little bit. The sun was kind of in here somewhere, so we can do it at just tiny bit, dehaze down just like so. And this is just such a nice little effect, and it's so subtle in many cases, but it does so much, just like so. And then what we can do, and this is just a point of preference, again, it's just like cooking. You have to test and experiment. Maybe we'd like to take a gradient filter like this, and here we could either make the sky, like if you take the haze up like this, make the sky so we get more, what do you say, details in the sky, or we could maybe want to blow them out a little bit, create more of this hazy, dreamy look. I think that could be pretty cool on this image. Just totally up to you and what you want to do. And by the way, if you want to unlock a decade of editing experience, both as my biggest passion and just doing it professionally, then check out my complete Lightroom Masterclass. This course is built as a simple step-by-step system that is fun and easy to watch. And if you take it, I can guarantee you that it will massively improve your editing skills in just 30 days. At the time of the recording, over 600 photographers have gone through it. The response I've gotten is fantastic. And my aim is not just to show you the sliders and how to edit the photos and all my little secret sauces that I have in it, but also how to think as a photo editor to begin with, so you understand not just how, but also the why behind certain decision making. Anyway, if that sounds interesting, then you can find more information in the description down below. Step number 6, the effects. So now what I would like to do, I do the effects here, so we can go down to effects. I usually like to point down a little bit of vignette. Sometimes I do plus. It's not that popular, but this feels like one of the memorial photos. He was such a nice guy, you know. but here we take it down just maybe -7 or 8, and then we can feather it and take up the highlights. And then I like to add a bit of grain. Let's say 30 for this photo right here. All right, so step number 7. This, my friend, is one of the most important steps. And here I do one final pass and I decide to remove distractions if there are any. So in this photo, we have this lens smudge right here. And you have generative AI if you want to remove something, and it just looks absolutely like magic. We did not have this a few years ago, but we don't need it for lens smudge. I know some of you might have seen this and be like, why don't you lens smudge there? Sometimes I do it early on, sometimes I not. Remember, it's just like cooking. I go back, like honestly, my friends, when I'm editing, I'm going back and forth a lot. I do a little bit of color and then I go, okay, maybe I need to now add up a little bit like this. So yeah, I have a roadmap, but I'm jumping between roads as well, if that makes sense to you. But take a look at this. I go up here and we do remove this. My lens smudge up here and maybe up there as well. All right. And maybe you want to remove this if you want to. I don't know. It's pretty okay in my opinion. And then I go through everything and go like, okay, what can I change here? We can take up the shadows a little bit. Maybe I want to take up the exposure a little bit on the shadows here on the mask as well. Make this a tiny bit bigger, something like this. The clarity, I think clarity going down with it is pretty good look. Make soften the entire photo. Then maybe we want to take up the saturation on the red a little bit. We can take down the orange, make it a little bit redder, something like this here. I mean, this is starting to look pretty damn good. And just doing one final pass on everything. Like, yeah, maybe a little bit more vignette, a little bit more grain, and you get the idea. And then, my friend, the most important step that you can do as a photo editor is that when you've edited the photo, step away from the computer. It could be just 5 minutes, go to the toilet, whatever, or longer. But the idea is that you want to come back with a fresh pair of eyes. When you've been editing, it's so easy to get blinded to what you do. Maybe you've been editing somewhere and you go, wow, this looks so good. Like for instance, you go like to the clarity slider and go like, oh my God, you see how this just looks awesome. And then you step away and you come back and go like, what the hell was I doing? And that you can only see when you come back with a fresh pair of eyes. So as you can see, by just harnessing our inner artist and moving a few simple sliders and doing a few simple things inside of Lightroom, we can take this photo from looking like this to this, and it does not take that long. I mean, if you're not yapping like I do like here, you do it in a few minutes, you know. But my friend, the truth is, even if your editing process is simple and solid, a few bad habits inside of Lightroom can still hold you back big time. And the annoying part is that most people, they don't even realize that they're doing it. So if you want to see some of the most common mistakes people do in Lightroom over and over again that you really want to avoid, then watch this video right here next.